Hi, I'm E.L. Lancaster, and I'm happy to be able to share with you materials from Alfred Music related to things that can be used in the public school classroom or even with private lessons that you're teaching in a public school as well. Uh, I'm actually going to share with you today three different methods and some substitutions some supplementary type things that you can substitute for various things within the method, and talk a little bit about what types of classes I would use these methods with. I've taught a lot of group classes, both at the collegiate level, at the pre-college level, at Interlochen Arts Camp, where I teach as well. I've served as a consultant to several school districts for their group piano programs, and I know the group piano programs vary. Sometimes the classes have students at the same level, sometimes you have multiple levels within the class, and so with those variety of students, it takes a lot of choices and a lot of planning to be effective for teaching young students. What I would like to do is first consider two different methods that you can use with beginning piano students. The first one is Premier Piano Course. I'd like to screen share with you, I believe. And Here is the first book of Premier Piano Course. You can see that it's an all-in-one class, an all-in-one course, I should say, not class, that has lesson materials, theory materials, technique materials, and performance materials. If you look across the top, you'll see there are 5 different authors. And the first author, Dennis Alexander, and the last author, Martha Meir, are names that you will know. Some of the most popular composers of teaching music today, composers in which the students always love their music. They're in 4 levels of this course, 4 levels. I want to share just a little bit with you on from the first book. Uh, I want to start actually in level unit 2. It is organized by units, so you can see I'm kind of flipping through a few things right now to so you can see where things are. And here's unit 1, and you can see the very, very basics that you have there outlined for you. As we move ahead, we begin very quickly with rhythms and rhythm patterns. Notice there are rhythm patterns 1, rhythm patterns 2, 3, 4, and 5 that you see there. We're hoping that students will actually learn to identify those as patterns and not just think of this rhythm number 1 as quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, but envision all 4 notes at once, just like we do when we sight read. Moving ahead, you'll see there's a lot of work on the black keys and and with pre-staff notation. But notice the other things that are there. There are lots of musical elements that you see. As you move ahead, you see there are worksheets that students can use. An important part of this course are the teacher duets that are there. Uh, Unit 2 begins on the white keys. Now, you can see on Unit 2, it identifies D as the most important note because it's the easiest to find in between the 2 black keys, and then the C and E surrounding it. Let's look at this unit just a little more in detail. So you have the elements that are introduced to the students. They actually then identify G and A as the 2 notes that are in the middle of the 3 black keys. And there are some worksheets that actually go with it where they find the C, Ds, and E's on the keyboard. And then when they play different little short reading examples. As you move ahead, then you see a piece that alternates between hands. One of the first pieces that alternates between hands. Then you have a page that shows you steps and some pieces that actually use steps. You've probably noticed as you go through that all of these pieces have teacher duets with them. Now, the teacher duets, I think, are very, very important because they're in a whole variety of styles. And that is the way we teach our students to learn about style before they're actually playing in a lot of different styles. So I would often say, uh, after I've played a duet with a student, I might just say a little one sentence about it. If it had staccato notes, I might say, did you hear those little short notes in there? We want to make them very short. The word for that is staccato. As you go into the next page, then you begin to see that there is the rhythm worksheet that's there. To the right side of your screen, now you're in Unit 3, where they're beginning to read notes on the staff. Notice we start with middle C, but look at that first piece on C. It starts with a finger 3. It changes to a finger 2. It changes to a finger 1 at that particular point. The same thing happens in the left hand. What we are really making sure that they do is they don't associate finger 1 with always middle C. We want them to know that any finger can play any note. Next, we have a landmark bass F combined with the middle C, a landmark treble G combined with the middle C, and then ice pops utilizes those three landmark notes. The important thing about this is that they learn to identify those notes, and then the reading approach has them move up by steps, and then by skips, and then by intervals of fourths, fifths, etc. So they're always relating it to reading by interval as opposed to reading note name, as opposed to just relating to note names. They're reading intervals as well. There you see a worksheet and another piece that uses the same thing before it moves on to the next unit. And this is the second page. My layout is actually a little bit different. When you open the book, those would be on facing pages that are there. Uh, Let me stop my screen share for just a moment right now. And I want to move you all the way to book 4. Uh, Book 4, I would like to share some of the music from book 4 because I want you to see where it actually goes to. Now, I know when you're teaching in a piano class, you may have some people in there who are already in book 4. Those people in book 4 are great to play the accompaniments with the people who are in book 1. And let me just share some of the music from book 4 so you will know where you're actually going to when you get to the end of the method. Okay, let me back up just a little bit. Here is a very familiar song. Spinning song. I shouldn't say it's actually not a song, although we call it a song. Songs have words, but it's a piece that we've all taught a million times. So this is approximately the level that you're going to be at the end of level 4. Now I'm going to turn over, and I talked earlier about the repertoire by Dennis Alexandra and Martha Meir. I'd like to share a couple of those pieces with you. The piece that you see on the right-hand part of your screen is called Trevi Fountain. You all have probably visited Trevi Fountain in Rome, and you know the uh, tale is that if you throw a coin over your shoulder into Trevi Fountain, you will return to Rome again. This is a very much a lyrical piece. I'll stop at the end of the page so I can turn the page so you can hear the second one. Here's Trevi Fountain. I would like to share with you another piece, though, from this book, and it's a more upbeat piece. You see it on the right side of the page. Not yet, but there you see it at this particular point. Let me find it in my book. It's called Festival Fantastico. If you look at that piece, you'll see there's so much to learn from this piece. Look at the end of the first line. There's a big retard, there's a fermata. And then if I look at this, I think, what's the most important thing I'm going to learn about theory from this piece? Well, if you look at measure 5, you're going to learn a lot about first inversion chords. And if you think about what are you going to learn about technique, you're going to have a lot of staccato and slurs, a good articulation study. Look at the very last measure of this page. The B section starts there, and it's a very, very different sound on that B section. Let me go to the next page and show you what that sound is. You've got that lyrical sound, and then you have the staccato interruptions. Lyrical staccato interruptions. Okay, here is Festival Fantastico. Okay, you have an idea of what the sound is, and it kind of goes back to that A section. Now, let me stop the share one more time. I do want to say that there are parallel books that go with this book, this series. There are repertoire books. These repertoire books contain additional pieces by Dennis Alexander and Martha Meir, as well as at least one duet. So you can enjoy that duet. Students in your class can enjoy that duet as, as an extra added type thing the uh, uh, for the course. Even if you're not using the method book per se, I encourage you to have repertoire books in your classroom because I know different students progress at different levels. They need more things. They need more things to look at, etc. Now, let me once again share with you the second course that I'm going to talk about. Here you see Piano 101. And Piano 101 also starts at the very beginning. And it's at the end, there are two books of Piano 101. Book 1 and Book 2. Book 2 at the end is approximately the same level as what you saw in Premier Piano Course. Here is the difference, though. When you get to Piano 101, you will notice at the table of contents page, everything is set up in units. Now, in those units, you're going to find a variety of materials. Look at Unit 1. It has at the top of the page the objectives for that unit. So these older students who I would say use Piano 101 with older students, probably late junior high or high school students, whereas Premier Piano Course I think you can start using as early as 8 or 9, even 7 years old. Piano 101 has objectives. It has a place for them to write their assignment. And interestingly enough, it has a little vignette on the first page of each unit that tells them something about music to spark their interest in it. Let's look at some of the pages now. You can see here that our very first unit is focusing on, again, rhythms. And they're doing lots of rhythm tapping. They then begin to move up and down the keyboard, as you can see on the right-hand page, on black keys. Notice we're not confining them to the middle of the keyboard. We're having them move all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom of the keyboard as well. As you look ahead, the first pieces, 2 by 3, all on black keys. Right hand on 2 black keys, left hand on 3 black keys. Again, a teacher duet to go with it. Moving ahead to the next unit, we're now all on white keys. Remember in Premier Piano Course, we introduced one key at a time. We started with the D, added the C and E. Older students can grasp a little bit more. Notice the little vignette here has to do with the history of the piano. Now again, they're moving up and down the keyboard, but this time on white keys. The little piece Summer Night teaches them a lot of different things, different dynamic levels, repeat signs, first and second endings. And basically what we're doing in this second unit, the first unit focused on all black keys. Now we're focusing on white keys. Look very carefully at this page on the left. Rhythm reading exercises are contained throughout the whole book in almost every unit, as well as ear training activities. So that's a way within your piano class, instead of having them play all the time, to get them away from the keyboard, to get them doing things together as a group. Even those students who are more advanced can work with those students who are less advanced. Then on the right side of the page, you'll see that there is a worksheet for the students to complete. I want to move you over, though, just a little bit to the unit where they begin to read. And you'll see that where that unit on the right for the staff, Did You Know, is about musical style periods. And as you move on, you'll see that the reading approach again starts with middle C, and they're first playing C, again not keeping their fingers on the same, not keeping finger 1 always on middle C, but being able to change fingers there. F below is the next one they learn. Notice the teacher accompaniments again. G above, and then this fiddle tune, a little kind of a country type accompaniment type sound, whereas the G was a waltz, uses all 3 of those elements that are there. Then you begin to see they begin to read by steps, they begin to read by skips, and there is your worksheet on the right side of the page. I want to go over and share with you a piece called Midnight Shadows, just so you'll get an idea of what things sound like in this particular book and some of the music that's there. Look at Midnight Shadows on the left side of your page. On Midnight Shadows, they are actually playing in a G 5-finger pattern, but with accidentals. And in Midnight Shadows, it's really a good piece. I'm looking for it in my book right now, so I can play it for you. It's a really good piece to work on articulation, to work on soft dynamics, and to really create a mood that you have. Notice you have to really create the soft sound that's there. One of my students' favorite pieces, though, is a piece called Toccatina on page 134. Before I go to Toccatina, though, I do want to point out one other thing that you will see here. Look at page 74. You will see it's the first two parts of a four-part ensemble. Now, in the real book, they're on opposite pages. Somehow, in my PDF scan, they didn't come on similar pages. Notice it's a five-finger pattern built on A, and it tells them where to play. And then here are the third and fourth parts. So if you were dealing with this in a class, going back to the first two parts, the first, second, and third parts are a little more complicated than the part four. So you're able to adapt and put your students who are not quite as advanced on part four rather than in one of the actual harder parts. Okay, I told you I wanted to share the one piece called Toccatina, so I want to go to that particular piece because it's truly one of the student favorites. I thought I would like to, in doing this workshop for you, I not only wanted to tell you the pedagogical concepts, but I wanted to share with you also some of the sounds of the music. Look at Toccatina. You see the first page on the right. You'll notice it's all thirds. And I have the students often just play a lot of thirds on the keyboard. And then when you get to the second page, guess what? It's again all thirds. But what happens in that B section? It moves up to a different key. It moves up to G. You've been in D minor, it moves up to G minor. Here's Toccatina. And then it repeats the A section once again. Finally, from book 2, I would like to share with you as well. So let me stop my screen share for just a minute. And I'd like to look at book 2. And I'll do my screen share one more time. There we go. Book 2. Basically, I only want to share one piece with you that'll kind of give you an idea of where the whole book ends up. And it's truly a favorite piece. It's called Just Strutting Along. And you see the first page of Just Strutting Along on the right-hand side of your page. Now, Just Strutting Along, you'll notice has a lot of changes of octaves. It has a swing rhythm as well. And then when you move to the second page, which you see over here, you'll see again you have a similar type situation. It's actually one of Martha Meer's most favorite pieces, and I trust me, you will never have a student who doesn't love playing this piece. I've always found whenever I teach it, regardless of the age, whether it's an 8-year-old, an 80-year-old, which I've actually never taught it to an 80-year-old, but I have taught it to a lot of adults. And they actually just love this piece, and it's a really good piece for getting them moving around the keyboard. Octave higher. With that jazzy sound at the end. Now, so 2 courses, Premier Piano Course, Piano 101, from which you can choose for your beginning students. Again, the important thing I would say, the younger students would probably work better in Premier Piano Course. Older students would probably work well in Piano 101. I'd like to move on now to the 3rd course that Alfred has introduced to you for your consideration, Alfred's Group Piano for Adults. Alfred's Group Piano for Adults is best used with students who play another instrument already. They may be in band, they may be in choir, they may read both clefs, they may read only one clef. And the way it's designed, I will share a little bit of that for you. Okay, here's the very first book. And you will notice again the pages are laid out, and they're laid out in kind of opposite ways. But again, we're set up in units. Now, I would also encourage you, if you have students who are planning to be music majors, and they are an instrumentalist or a vocalist, not a piano major, but they want to test out of their first semester of group piano, they should complete the first 13 units of this book. If they want to test out of the first year of group piano, they should complete the entire first book. Look at unit, I'm going to flip you through real quickly through unit 1, and I'm sure you probably have copies of this that you can look at more thoroughly, but you can see again the focus on rhythms. You can see this time, because they already probably read rhythms really well, that they get a lot of rhythm patterns at the very beginning. Moving around the keyboard again on the next pages. Improvising on black keys with this teacher accompaniment. Immediately after that, they're playing on white keys, they're moving up the octave, they're moving up the keyboard and down the keyboard on white keys. So I'm kind of giving you a really quick overview of everything that you have in that unit 1. They're having sharps and flats. Look at the chromatic scale, and this is something you can teach almost any student. You start with your right hand first finger on the E above middle C, your left hand first finger on middle C. Then you go in opposite directions, making sure the student knows that they only use 3 on the black keys. They use 1 on all the white keys, with the exception of when there are 2 white keys in a row, then they use 1 and 2. I often use that type of thing with lots of students. So if you have a mixed class, your beginning students can go very slowly on it for 1 octave. Your advanced students can go several octaves very, very quickly. It's a wonderful little warm-up exercise that you can start almost each class with. Uh, when they begin to read music, you will see that they're beginning on the entire staff, and you, you can see we relate everything to these keyboard, these almost these landmark notes, the C's, the F's, the G's, and then they do little examples. Especially good for those students who read only one clef. Just want to share with you maybe the first unit of this. There are lots of sight reading examples that you see as well. And this is sight reading for the first unit, individual lines. Then the next page has them alternating hands. Okay, by the time they get to Unit 8, and I'm going to skip all the way over to Unit 8 for you, there's a piece I want to share with you from Unit 8. Here's Unit 8, I believe. This is dealing with major chords, and I have them play 4 notes in each hand. Not major chords, major scales, I apologize. I have them play 4 notes in each hand, 4 notes left hand, 4 notes right hand, first when they build it. And if they have a lot of background, they can actually go around the circle fifths with that. Writing pages on the left for them to use. And then what I want to share with you is a piece called Dream Echoes. Some of you may have taught Dream Echoes. It's actually a really favorite piece of lots of students. I'm getting my book so I can share it with you. And this piece is one that you can almost teach by rote. I always say when you play Dream Echoes, it makes you sound like you can really play when you may have limited skills to play. So here's Dream Echoes. Finally, I want you to move over to Unit 13, because remember I told you if you have students who are going to be a music major but are not a piano major, that if they finish Unit 13, they could most likely test out of their first semester of group piano. Now, notice what's happening in this unit. They're playing the 1, 4, 6, 4, 1, 5, 6, 5, 1 unit. Let me share with you the other activities that are here. The one thing I want to say to you about both Piano 101 and Alfred's Group Piano for Adults is when you are working within the unit, you do not have to do every page. You can tailor things within the unit so they can get a variety of activities on the same concept. Whereas in Premier Piano course, when I'm recommending for younger students, I would suggest that you do almost cover every page. There may be, if the student is really good, you can skip some of the repertoire pieces. But for an average student, you would cover every page. So in this unit, Unit 13 of Alfred's Group Piano for Adults, we're working with primary chords. Then a piece that uses the intervals that they've studied, fifths, sixths, sevenths in the left hand you'll see, and there's the second page of it. There's always a reading section. Now, the reading section kind of has varied levels. You can see the two pieces on the right-hand side of the page. Then on the next page, you can see it's a different type of skill. It uses those chords. There are some technical exercises, in this case, dealing with intervals. Then there is a two-hand accompaniment, which is great for your group classes. You can have, you can have one student play the melody. The other student can complete that accompaniment reading the chord symbols. Finally, there's a section on harmonization. Some of the harmonizations, like the Bach that you see at the top of the right-hand page, uses letter symbols. At the bottom of the page, the student has to determine whether they're using 1, 4, or 5 in each of the blanks. And there are several of those that you can see there. There's also some improvisation activities where they create, it gives you some rules for creating the improvisation. And then finally, there's a page, and you can see I filled in some of that review worksheet. There's a 2-page review worksheet that's there. I'm going to stop my share for just a minute. If I can get out of it. There we go. All right. Finally, the last books I want to introduce to you are the supplementary books that go with Alfred's Group Piano for Adults. Now, I say they go with Alfred's Group Piano for Adults, but these are the type of books that you should have in your classroom to use with students at a whole variety of levels. The first book is the ensemble music for Alfred's Group Piano for Adults. I will share this screen with you and give you a little idea of the types of things that are in the ensemble book. Okay, look at the table of contents for the ensemble book. Notice there are teacher-student duets. So there's easy parts for the student, harder parts for you, for the teacher. There are student-student duets. That means that the student-student duets, the parts are at approximately the same level. Third, there are second piano parts for solo repertoire. All of you know the Leopold Mozart Burlesque. You know the Leopold Mozart Minuet in F. You know the Rameau Rondino. We have written a second piano part for you or a more advanced students to play with a student who's playing their solo repertoire that they might be playing for class, for a recital, or some kind of program. Fourth thing, there are duet parts for Hanon exercises. So if your students are working on Hanon, you can play a duet with them, or a more advanced student can play a duet with them. Finally, there's a multiple piano ensemble. Sometimes they're single lines, sometimes they're more than single lines. I want to share one example of each of those, and they won't be on the right pages. They are laid out on the right pages in the book itself. Okay, here is here is an example of an original duet. There is the secondo for this piece by Melody Bober. Here is the primo, and you can see the primo actually might be a little bit easier than the secondo, but the secondo is definitely within level of a student. Okay, moving on to 10. This is a teacher part for the duet that you see on page 11. You'll notice it's a hands alternate in this duet, and between parts. Finally, let's move over to, not finally, but look at page 22. A second piano part for the Hanon exercise that you see on page 23. The other type, page 36, 37, here is the second piano part on the right for the Leopold Mozart minuet that you see on the left of the next page. Finally, the multi-piano piece in this particular book happens to be a piece that you see on the right. It's single lines, it's a little bit harder, has different parts. Your beginning students would play part 4. Maybe the student who doesn't read bass clef very well, who's just beginning to read bass clef, could work on part 3. So you can assign those parts to the student who to a lot of different levels of students. So it's been a real joy to be able to share these 3 methods with you. I do hope that you have found some things that you will be able to use in your classes during the year. I love teaching group piano. I love teaching piano classes. I love teaching all kinds of piano. So do not hesitate to reach out for me if you have questions. I know that I probably maybe know some of the people who are listening to this video. And if I don't know you, if I see you at a convention, I would love for you to stop and say hello and tell me you heard this session. Thank you so much for attending. Good luck and goodbye.